All right, let's get right into it. You look at Antarctica and what do you see, right? Just an empty, frozen wasteland. But what if I told you the real story, the real value, and yeah, the real global tension? What if it's all buried miles under that ice?
I mean, just think about that for a second. We're talking half a kilometer down. Sunlight has never reached this place. It's been totally cut off from our world for thousands of years, and yet something is alive down there. That one single discovery, it just shatters what we thought was possible, the absolute limits for where life can exist.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go on a journey right down through the ice, layer by layer. And as we go, we're going to uncover what the world's most powerful nations are really positioning themselves to control.
Okay, so before we dive deep, let's start at the top, on the surface. Because honestly, to really get what's happening below, you first have to wrap your head around the just massive scale of what's sitting on top of it all. 70%. Just let that sink in. 70% of all the fresh water on our entire planet is locked away right here in this one giant ice sheet. It's the biggest freshwater reserve we have, by a long shot. And think about it. In a world that's getting more and more worried about water, that number alone makes this place unbelievably important.
And this place is a continent of just wild extremes. It's bigger than the US and Mexico put together. The temperature can drop to below -90 degrees Celsius. Winds can howl at over 200 miles an hour. And the ice itself is so thick you could bury the entire European Alps under it and not even notice. So yeah, that's the brutal surface we're starting from.
All right, let's begin our descent. The very first layer we hit isn't just ice. It's like a perfect historical archive. The ice itself is basically a library, holding the entire story of Earth's past.
So what scientists do is they drill down and pull up these amazing things called ice cores. And here's how it works. Every year, snow falls. Over thousands, even millions of years, that snow gets squished down into ice. And as it does, it traps these tiny, tiny bubbles of air. So each bubble, it's a perfect little time capsule. A snapshot of the atmosphere from way back when, just sealed away, waiting for us.
And the amount of time we're talking about here, it's mind-blowing. The oldest ice cores they've found give us a perfect record of the atmosphere going back 1.2 million years. We can literally analyze the air from a time long before our own species even walked the Earth. It's incredible.
Sometimes this super ancient ice actually makes its way to the surface. See, most of Antarctica is covered in bright white snow, but in some spots, these incredibly powerful winds just scour the top layers away, and what they reveal is this blue ice. It's been compressed for so long that every single air bubble has been squeezed out, so when sunlight hits it, the light can travel way deeper into the ice. It absorbs the reds and yellows, and what comes out is this stunning, almost alien-looking blue glow.
Okay, time to go deeper. We're going past the solid ice now, into a place you would never, ever expect to find liquid water. We're talking about a massive, hidden world of rivers and lakes all moving beneath the ice.
This is honestly one of the wildest discoveries in modern science. You'd think that under miles of ice there's just rock, right? Wrong. There's a whole active plumbing system down there. Thousands of rivers, hundreds of lakes, some of them are bigger than major cities, and it's all connected, all flowing in complete and total darkness. An entire world of water, completely hidden from sight.
And every now and then, a little piece of that hidden world makes it to the surface. Case in point, blood falls. For like 100 years, nobody could figure this thing out. But now we know. It's basically ancient, super salty water that's been trapped under a glacier for millions of years. And it's packed with iron. So when it finally seeps out and hits the oxygen in the air for the first time, it instantly rusts. It literally rusts on contact, staining the ice this crazy deep red color. So what does this all mean? Well, these hidden rivers are basically the lifeblood of the entire Southern Ocean. They're carrying all that iron and other nutrients out to sea. That stuff acts like fertilizer, fueling these massive blooms of tiny little plants called phytoplankton. Then krill eat the phytoplankton. And pretty much everything else, from penguins to seals all the way up to blue whales, the biggest animal on the planet, eats the krill. The whole food chain, it starts right here, in the dark, under the ice.
Okay, we're almost at the bottom of our journey. We've passed through the ice library, we've explored the hidden world of water, and now we've reached the final layer, the bedrock itself, the true continent that's been buried under all this ice for millions of years. So, let's just imagine for a second. What if we could just snap our fingers and make all that ice disappear? What does Antarctica really look like underneath it all?
Well, it's not some flat, boring slab of rock, I can tell you that. You'd see this rugged, massive landscape. There are entire mountain ranges down there, as big as the Alps in Europe, totally buried. And get this, it's also home to the deepest land canyon on the entire planet, plunging more than 2 miles below sea level. It's just spectacular.
But when you look at the map of the bedrock, you see something really fundamental. Antarctica isn't really one continent. It's more like two different worlds fused together. You've got East Antarctica, which is this really old, stable, high and dry piece of land, and then you have West Antarctica, and that's a whole different story. It's a jumble of volcanic islands and deep basins, all sort of stretched thin, and a lot of it is actually below sea level, which, and this is key, makes it way, way more unstable.
And here's why it's so unstable. Underneath West Antarctica, you have dozens of active volcanoes. They're constantly pumping out heat. So the ice isn't just melting because the air is getting warmer, it's also melting from the bottom up. It's this hidden engine, and it's a huge reason why the ice in that part of the continent is disappearing so fast. Okay, so now let's pull all this back up to the surface. All these incredible discoveries, the hidden water, the buried mountains, the potential for resources, they're all happening at a really interesting time. Because there's a critical deadline looming on the horizon, and it brings up the big question of the Antarctic Treaty and the year 2048.
So, for more than 60 years, this amazing place has been protected. The Antarctic Treaty basically says the continent is off limits. It's a place for peace and for science only. No military bases, no weapons, and the really clever part is that it puts all territorial claims on ice, literally. Nobody can claim a piece of it. But here's the timeline that's making everyone nervous. Back in 1959, the treaty hits pause on the whole game. But today you see countries strategically moving their pieces across the board. They're building new research stations. They're mapping out what's under the ice. And the reason is that magic number, 2048. In 2048, key parts of the treaty can be reopened and reviewed, and that could, potentially, open the door for mining and drilling. So with that date getting closer, everyone's trying to establish a foothold now, because having a presence on the ice today could mean having power over it tomorrow.
And you can see it happening. Russia is out there doing huge seismic surveys, basically drawing maps of where the oil and gas might be. China is expanding its program at an incredible pace, building brand new year-round stations. And at the same time, the US is dealing with some pretty old infrastructure and questions about funding. There's no doubt about it. The balance of power on the continent is shifting.
So it all comes down to this. This entire, complex, fragile world, from the ancient air trapped in the ice to the mysterious life that's been thriving in total darkness, it all developed over millions of years, totally cut off from everything. It's a pristine system. And the question we're left with is, can we learn enough about it and appreciate it enough to protect it before the race to claim what's hidden underneath changes it for good?